Today, I'm going to be reviewing every single game for Nintendo's worst console of all time. That's right, we are going to be looking at Nintendo's Virtual Boy. Now, I have preemptively taken some ibuprofen for this video because there are 14 games that were released for it in North America, and while that doesn't sound like that many to play in a row, the eye strain alone is going to kill me. So I hope that you guys are excited, but before we get into the games, let's talk about the history of the Virtual Boy and why it is so bad. The Virtual Boy was only out for 1 year, being released in 1995 and discontinued in 1996. Worldwide, they sold less than 1 million units, which is pretty sad, especially considering that they took 4 years to develop it. Gunpei Yokoi, who was responsible for the Game & Watch and the original Game Boy, was in charge of the Virtual Boy, and he was leading a team of people focused on designing and building this thing, while a different team was building the N64. The Virtual Boy was critically panned when it first came out, due to a variety of reasons, which I'm sure we'll talk more about later in this video, but the two big reasons were, number one, it was way too expensive, and number two, it was just so uncomfortable. Worldwide, they released 22 games for it, but only 14 of those came out in the US, which are the 14 games that we're going to be playing and talking about in this video. So I'm going to be playing all of these Virtual Boy games today on my countertop Virtual Boy kiosk. Reason being, this is just, it's already set up and ready to go. I don't have to pull down the box with the Virtual Boy console, get it all set up. This is going to be a little bit easier. I also need to mention right here before we get into the first game that I have no way to capture Virtual Boy footage. So unfortunately for this video, we are going to have to be borrowing some footage from other people here on YouTube. We of course are going to credit them on screen with each game and then also link to them in the description down below. So if you'd like to check any of them out and show them some support, you can do so. But with all that said, let's jump into the first game. We are going to be going alphabetically, starting off with 3D Tetris. I'm obviously not going to be sitting here and beating all of these games to then review them. These are more of like first thoughts, I suppose. But in mode A or option A, whatever it is, the normal way to play 3D Tetris here, the only word that I can really use to describe this game is boring. It's kind of 3D, I suppose, but the entire board is shifting like this, constantly. Little disorienting. Without that little miniature kind of map in the bottom right corner, it would be way too difficult just because of the perspective that you're playing from. One other thing that I don't really enjoy about 3D Tetris here is that the pieces are not the same pieces you would recognize from any other Tetris game. You don't have anything in an L shape, there's nothing in a little Z shape, nothing like that. They're all just 1 block, 2 blocks, or 3 blocks. There might have been a square, I can't remember, but it's just so simplified, and you can't rotate the pieces in 3D. You can only rotate them this way. You cannot rotate them this way. And so when you're building up these like layers of Tetris blocks, you can't rotate a piece to go into 2 layers. You can only put them in 1 layer at a time. Kind of dumb, kind of boring. Let's move on to the next game. Galactic Pinball is the second game that I played here. This one is okay, but I really don't think this needs to be on the Virtual Boy. This is a very simple pinball game, probably one of the most simple pinball games I have ever played. The only part that looks 3D is when you lose a ball and your score pops up on the screen. That's the only part that really looked 3D to me. I did only check out 1 level, and it's got some cute little animations and stuff when you get to certain things. Some pieces of the map are moving, but it's just very simplified. Kind of boring once again, which I think unfortunately is going to be a theme of these Virtual Boy games. And I think another theme we're going to see throughout this video is that most of these games are not 3D and really have nothing to do with the 3D functionality of the Virtual Boy. So why they're on Virtual Boy, I couldn't tell you. Let's move on. Golf. There's not much to say about this one. It definitely has more kind of like 3D aspects to it than Galactic Pinball does, but once again, I'm really not sure that this needs to be on the Virtual Boy. I barely even enjoy miniature golf, so playing a golf game on the Virtual Boy, so far, this is bottom of the barrel. I also do not really understand all of the rules about golf. I know that there's a bunch of different clubs and stuff like that. The game does give you the option to pick different clubs, different stances, different directions, and then you have like a power meter, and then you have a, I don't even know what to call it. You have a meter that goes through and you pick where you hit the ball, like where on the ball you connect. I played the first hole, which said it was a par 4. I had like 6 strokes before turning the game off. Not very fun. I do not like sports games. Luckily, there are not too many on the Virtual Boy, but we will have at least one more coming up later in this video. Mario Clash so far has been like by far the best game that I have played. This one does have a little bit of a 3D aspect, but as I'm gonna say with most of these, probably doesn't need to be on the Virtual Boy. But when I actually never played this game before, but I thought that it was going to be more of like an old school arcade style game, because that's what it looks like, especially with the, you know, the red and black graphics of the Virtual Boy. But it turns out this is actually more of a puzzle game, which is pretty cool. I enjoy puzzle games. I obviously enjoy Mario as a character, so this is kind of fun. But essentially you are jumping on turtles, and then you're using their shells to destroy the, I think these enemies are called Spiny. There's 2 different variants of them, so maybe one of them has a different name, I do not know. But you're kind of just going through the levels like that, and then at least up to the point that I played, there was a bonus level where coins are coming down and you're kind of just jumping in like this faux 3D area to just earn some bonus points. I had to look up how to beat level 3 at first because I didn't realize that you could throw the shells across the gap. I thought you could only throw them left and right. Didn't know you could throw them backwards and forwards. Once I figured that out, I was able to make it through quite a few more levels. This is a very fun puzzle game. I actually would go back and play this one if it wasn't on the Virtual Boy. Because even if the game is super, super fun, all of these games are putting some serious strain on my balls, my eyeballs. And it's not fun. Mario Tennis was the pack-in game for the Virtual Boy. So if you bought a Virtual Boy back in the day new, you would get Mario Tennis. And this may be the reason that the Virtual Boy is a failure, because Mario Tennis is not good. A little bit more 3D than some of the other games, but to think that they were developing this alongside the N64 at the same time is mind-blowing, because the N64 version of Mario Tennis is really, really good. I love that game. This Virtual Boy version is horrible. I don't know what it is, but I cannot hit the ball. I don't know if it's because of the perspective with the 3D aspect when the ball is coming at you. It's kind of hard to tell exactly where it is, so I keep missing. And so Donkey Kong Jr. is beating me, and then we switch service and I'm serving, and I'm just faulting every single time. I do not get it. The perspective is not great for it. The 3D aspect makes it hard to follow. It's hard to know exactly where the ball is. It's hard to even hit the ball at all. I would not be surprised if Mario Tennis on Virtual Boy is one of the big reasons that this console failed, because this game sucks. So I thought that Mario Clash was the best game so far. Now I think it's Nestor's Funky Bowling. Nestor is a character that was popular in the Nintendo Power magazine, and I thought that he was a kid, but he's got a bald spot on the back of his head. Kind of weird, but this game is pretty fun. I played 2 games. I think I got like 115 or so the first time, but the second game I got 151. I tried to film it. You probably can't see it, but it was 151, I swear. Not a bad score for only my second game. What I like about this game is that it has all the same stuff that you would expect from like actual bowling. Like if you get a strike or a split or a spare or a double or a turkey, which I did one time, you get these fun little animations, and it looks like there's a bunch of different ones, so you're not just seeing the same things repeated. But there's also a bunch of facial reactions from Nestor whenever you are bowling. My favorite one is that, and it just seems to happen randomly, like you roll and you get a 9, which is decent. It's not a strike or anything, but then like all his hair just falls out and he's completely bald. I don't get it, but it's really funny. This game is a little bit addicting. Maybe it's just because I enjoy bowling games, but I thought that this one was pretty fun. On to the next. So Panic Bomber, I did expect to be a puzzle game because it's a Bomberman game, right? But it's different than what I expected. I've never played this one either, and this is more of a Tetris style puzzle game where you have things falling down, but you're actually versing the computer, acting as a second character. So from the couple matches that I did play, it seems like you kind of have an area and you're just going through enemies and kind of traveling through the area. It's very simple. It is one of these puzzle games where if your blocks basically get all the way to the top, you lose. And the goal is to build up as many bombs as possible at the bottom, which you can get more bombs by matching 3 of the same character in a row. And then you also get bombs that will fall, not just characters, and then you can explode them and clear your stuff and also get points. So pretty kind of simple puzzle game, kind of fun. Not the best game that I've played so far, but definitely not the worst either. Red Alarm is the first game that I've played so far that is like almost fully 3D. The only problem is that it's not very good. It is a like vector style, like space shooter, kind of like shoot 'em up style game. And so it's reminding me a little bit of Star Fox, but obviously Star Fox is 1,000 times better. This is all just red and black, and there's no, it's all just lines. If you've played like the Vectrex, it's got those kind of graphics, which in order for these early games to pull off this 3D effect, sometimes they have to do this. It's not the best. Kind of a slow game. It's because everything is red and nothing has any sort of texture, it's all kind of see-through. It's a little difficult to kind of keep track of when enemy bullets are about to hit you, or differentiating the background from your ship from enemy ships. It all looks exactly the same, and everything is see-through. So it's kind of weird, but at least it has some 3D effect, which is kind of cool to see on such an old console. But beyond that kind of novelty, there really isn't much here, so let's move on to the next game. I've been going alphabetically, and I just got to Teleroboxer and realized that my copy is factory sealed. So I guess there's only one thing we can do. This pains me, but this video must be made. Ah, look at that. A fresh, brand new Virtual Boy game. Ooh, it smells new. So I'm not really sure if it was worth opening that factory sealed copy of Teleroboxer, because the game is just okay. It's a robot boxing game where you're playing against these wacky characters who have these like big robots that you're using to fight. It does have a little bit more 3D than most of the other games, which is kind of cool. You're playing in like a first-person view where only your fists are visible of your own character. And I beat the first guy, pretty easy, pretty simple. And then the second guy, I was doing pretty good. And then all of a sudden, his head dropped from up here down to where his stomach was, and I could not hit him after that. I obviously am doing something wrong. I don't exactly know how to play the game perfectly, but this is one game that actually requires you to use both D-pads and the triggers to kind of control everything. So I'm sure that there's some sort of button combination that I just wasn't pressing to be able to hit that guy. But overall, the game is just okay. And unfortunately, I turned about a $130 game into about a $60 game by opening it. So I hope it was worth it for you guys at least. Vertical Force is another space shooter, but at least this one is 10 times better than Red Alarm. You can actually tell what's going on. You have, you know, actual shapes and some details to the graphics. It's not just lines everywhere. The only thing that makes this one 3D, which it kind of even isn't, is that you can use the A button to drop down or up a level. So some enemies will appear smaller on the screen, and sometimes it's kind of hard to tell if they are on the upper level or the lower level. But you use the A button to just swap between the two. And since it's a top-down thing, you're kind of dropping this way, not this way. Other than that, kind of just a generic space shooter. I got to the end of the first level and there was a boss battle. I blew up, lost to him, didn't really feel the need to continue. I kind of get the gist of what the game is, and since I don't really like space shooters, we're gonna move on to the next game. Virtual League Baseball, unfortunately, not very good. I can say that it's better than the golf game at least, but I don't know. Who wants to play a sports game on the Virtual Boy? It's like the worst thing on the worst thing. I was batting first when I played, and I was able to hit the ball a few times, but it wasn't going very far. I didn't see any sort of power meter when you're batting, but the pitcher was catching the ball every time and just throwing it to first base and getting me out immediately. I bunted the ball once and it was a foul. And so I scored 0 points on the first inning. And then when I was pitching, the first guy got a triple. And when you're running in the outfield, you're controlling all of the characters at the same time, so they all move like this. Very weird. I don't know. It's not great. I can't imagine most sports games would be good on something like the Virtual Boy or even on something like the Game Boy. You kind of need a bigger screen and more buttons to really control characters in a sports game. So, not really feeling this one either, which, you know, kind of expected that, so let's move on. Finally, we have another really, really good game with Wario Land. This is probably the best Virtual Boy game out there, and full disclosure, I have played this game before. I played quite a bit of it. It's very, very enjoyable. I just wish that it wasn't on Virtual Boy, because with the standard red and black graphics and the eye strain and everything, it really makes me wish that this game was on another platform. So this is a side-scrolling platformer similar to most Mario games, but you're playing as Wario, and you can gather different hats to give yourself different abilities. From what I just played right now, just the first few levels, you can get basically a hat that acts as a mushroom in Super Mario Bros., where it kind of gives you like a second hit, and then you're able to also dash. And your dash is not only an attack, but you can also use it to break blocks and do other things like that. There are some secrets to be found as well. And then the kind of like 3D feature of the game is that you can jump forward and back between like the foreground, and then sometimes there will be spots in the background where you can warp back to and then play back there as well. Pretty simple game. If you've played any 2D Mario game, you're gonna be, you know, you're gonna feel at home with this one. But it is very good, and it's not just good for a Virtual Boy game, it's just a fun game anyway. The fact that it's on Virtual Boy kind of makes it worse. But either way, Wario Land, very, very fun Virtual Boy game. If you're gonna play one of them at all, this is probably the one to play. So Waterworld is actually not that bad, but it's not that good either. I believe this is the only like licensed game, like from a movie on the Virtual Boy. Not a great game based on not a great movie, and it's just pointless, at least from what I played. I played, I think, 3 or 4 levels, and you're basically on this little like boat thing, and there's swimmers around you in the water, and people on jet skis are trying to kidnap them, I suppose, and you defend the swimmers by spinning around and shooting the jet skis until they explode. That's kind of it. Maybe there's more to the game later on, but it's not fun enough to want to get any further into the game. It seems pretty pointless. So I guess that's all the Virtual Boy games. Hello?
Yo, Coop.
Hey, what's up, Riff?
Yeah, I heard you were doing a Virtual Boy video, and I wanted to remind you, do Jack Bros. Don't forget about it.
Oh, shoot. I totally forgot about that one.
Yeah, it's kind of a filler title, so it's easy to forget.
Yeah, I will definitely make sure to do that one. I'm going to do it right now, actually.
Okay,
Thank
man.
you.
Yeah, no worries. Have a good day, man.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. See you later.
God, that guy has a sexy beard.
How could I forget about Jack Bros for the Virtual Boy? This is the rarest and most expensive game, at least that was released here in North America, and I believe it's the only Virtual Boy game made by Atlas as well, and it features a little guy, Jack. So, I may have spoken too soon when I said that Wario Land was the best Virtual Boy game. Depending on your personal taste, this might be it for you. But be warned, even a loose cartridge of this game is like $1,000. To get it in the box like this, you have to have an awesome girlfriend like me, and they will get this for you as a birthday gift, and I think put it on a credit card because it's very expensive. This thing, complete in box, is upwards of like $2,000 to $3,000 depending on condition and all that, but it is a very, very good game. So as another one that I have played before, let's pop this one back in and play a little bit more and let you guys know what I think about it. So Jack Bros is kind of like a Halloween themed game, which is really cool. So if you're into stuff like Castlevania, you like that kind of like dark imagery and stuff like that, and you're into, I don't even know what to call this game, kind of a just action. It's not really a platformer, but kind of just like an action game, I guess. It's fairly simple, fairly easy, and it's very, very linear. There isn't too much like exploring to do or anything like that, but you are basically playing as one of 3 characters. They're all named Jack, and essentially there is a portal that opens to the human world on Halloween, and these characters come through the portal and they basically like play with all the kids on Halloween, and your character doesn't make it back to the portal in time, and if this happens, you basically die, right? So the whole point of the game is that you, along with the help of a little fairy guide, kind of like Navi in Ocarina of Time, you're trying to make it through all these levels to get to the portal so you can get back to your own world so that you don't die at midnight. And so you're going through these levels, and this is another game where there really isn't much 3D like built in. And unfortunately, it's just a good game without that, but doesn't need to be on Virtual Boy. The only 3D aspect is when you kind of like, you go down a level, basically. And it's just a visual thing that happens like pretty quick. It's not like there's not like a 3D aspect to the gameplay. So you're going through this area, you are killing enemies, you're collecting keys, you're avoiding obstacles, and there's like spike traps and stuff like that. You basically get all these keys, and then eventually you get to the end of the level and you fight a boss. So the bosses are, at least the ones that I played and fought, they're pretty cool. Like I said, they're all kind of like Halloween / horror themed. It's not like a scary game or anything, but it does have that kind of Halloween vibe, which is kind of cool. I do enjoy that in games. And the game is just fun. Like I said, it's a simple game. It's fairly easy, but it is fun. And especially when you compare it to the majority of other Virtual Boy games, it's pretty freaking good. I still personally think that Wario Land is a better game, and I had more fun with Wario Land, but you might enjoy this game a lot more. Just depends on your taste, of course. These are just my opinions in this video, but according to me, Jack Bros is probably the 2nd best Virtual Boy game after Wario Land. And if you had to ask me, you know, what's the 3rd one? For me, it's going to be Nestor's Funky Bowling, just because I had the most fun playing that one personally. But overall, you can't go wrong with Wario Land or Jack Bros. They are both fantastic games. And if you're going to play Virtual Boy at all, you might as well play one of those two, because most of the other games, they're not worth your time, aside from Nestor's Funky Bowling, of course. So that is the entire North American Virtual Boy library. What do you guys think? Have you played the Virtual Boy before? Do you ever want to play it again if you have? Or is it just something that you think should kind of just be left to collectors at this point because it doesn't really have any sort of, you know, actual gameplay value? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.